also known as Ksoo, pleaded guilty to the killing of Adrian Gaynor Jr., who many people knew as Lil Bibby. That guilty plea came during a pre-trial hearing Monday, and the judge sentenced him to 10 years in prison for second-degree murder. Today marks 7 years since Bibby was shot and killed at the Hilltop Village Apartments. Ksoo was arrested back in 2021, and after that arrest, News4Jax spoke with Bibby's mom, Elizabeth Gaynor.
It's bittersweet. I'm glad they finally got him off the street so he can't hurt anybody else's baby.
This case had been on hold for years while Ksoo was on trial in a separate high-profile murder case. In that case, he was convicted and is now serving life for the 2020 murder of Charles Lil Buck McCormick Jr. For the full breakdown, go to news4jax.com.
But Bibby, I don't even know gang number. I bang Bibby. Who that crying about in the song every day.
All right, Mr. Robinson, if you'll come forward for sentencing.
Ksoo later admitted he had a role in what happened to Blappy. And it didn't stop there. Julio's own cousin even hopped online and bragged about it for years. But believe it or not, that confession isn't even the craziest part of this whole story. Rumors started circulating that Ksoo ended up seriously injured while locked up in jail. And what came next sent shockwaves straight through Jacksonville. That moment became the spark that lit the entire situation on fire. Some stories in the rap world hit so hard they end up shifting the whole culture. They don't just land in headlines, they completely change how people look at what really happens once the music fades and real life steps in. And Ksoo's story is definitely one of those. When you start digging deeper into everything surrounding this case, the confessions, the accusations, the betrayals, and even family members seemingly turning on each other, it honestly sounds like something pulled straight from a Hollywood crime film. But here's the catch: none of this is fiction. Every single piece of this story is real. It's all documented, recorded, and permanently stored in Florida's legal records. So let's take it back to the beginning. Because if you don't understand the chaos that erupted across Jacksonville's streets, you'll never fully understand how things spiraled this far, or why a young man's life ended in a parking lot that night. What makes it even more shocking is that the person allegedly responsible even jumped online afterward and flexed about it like it was part of some rap video. Jacksonville, Florida, better known to locals as Duval, soon became the center of one of the most publicized and intense rap feuds hip-hop has seen in recent years.
We're in the first degree by unanimous verdict, and at this time this court will then adjudicate you guilty of that offense and sentence you to the only lawful sentence.
One side of the rivalry involved ATK, a crew connected to rapper Young Ace. The tension, the music, and the street chatter all blended together to create one of the most talked about beefs the rap world had witnessed. His real name was Kenyatta Bullard. Standing on the opposite side of the battlefield was KTA, a group heavily tied to the 6 Block neighborhood, most famously represented by the late rapper Julio Foolio, whose real name was Charles Jones II. This wasn't just rappers trading insults or dropping diss tracks online. These two sides were really clashing in the streets. Starting around 2017, things escalated quickly with a series of back-and-forth attacks that reportedly left more than a dozen people dead in a relentless cycle of retaliation. The feud intensified even more in 2017 after the tragic death of 19-year-old Zion Brown, a known KTA associate and cousin of Julio Foolio. Then, in June 2018, young Ace was suddenly ambushed outside a nightclub. He was shot multiple times, but somehow survived. Sadly, 3 of his close friends, including his own brother, lost their lives that night. That moment drove the divide even deeper and pushed both sides closer to the edge. Then came January 2019, another devastating loss. Charles McCormick Jr., better known as Little Buck, was killed, adding yet another name to the growing list tied to this feud. Every new incident made the rivalry darker, the tension thicker, and the entire city more uneasy. Right in the middle of all this chaos stood a man named Haki Robinson.
All right, Mr. Robinson, based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of the offense charged in the indictment in case number 2020 CF 3601,
known in the streets as Ksoo. He was part of ATK and ran closely with Young Ace. And he wasn't just rapping about street life. According to law enforcement, he was allegedly one of the group's most active members, someone whose lyrics seemed to mirror what was actually unfolding in real life. Now, this is where the story takes a truly heartbreaking turn. On February 25, 2019, just 1 month after Little Buck's death, a 16-year-old named Adrian Gaynor Jr., known across Duval County as Bibby, lost his life following an incident at the Hilltop Village Apartments. Bibby wasn't just a random kid caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He had deep ties to the KTA crew and was considered like a little brother to Julio Foolio himself. Their relationship went way beyond music or simple friendship. This part really hits hard. Julio once spoke in an interview about the last time he spent time with Bibby. He explained how Bibby would stop by their grandmother's house on 45th Street after school, just like he had done so many times before. That's how close their bond was. Julio even tattooed Bibby's name on his face, a permanent reminder of how strong that connection really was. For people raised together in neighborhoods like that, loyalty means everything. And on the day everything changed, Julio told Bibby something that would stay with him forever. He warned him not to go outside. Julio said the block was hot, not because of the temperature, but because the atmosphere in the streets felt dangerous. Police were everywhere, people were moving differently, acting suspicious, and the tension in the air felt heavy. He told him it just wasn't the right time to be wandering around for no reason. Julio made it very clear. At that moment, he wasn't even thinking about rivals. He just had a gut feeling that something about the energy in the streets felt completely off.
The court does hereby remand you to the custody of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and your bond in this matter shall be revoked.
Everything around him just felt tense and uneasy, but Blabby, little bro, wasn't trying to hear any of that. He told Julio he was heading over to Hilltop just to chill for a bit. Julio, being the big brother figure he had always been, told him he loved him and to stay safe before he walked out. Those ended up being the last words Julio ever said to him, and that pain still sits heavy to this day. Barely 20 to 25 minutes after Blatty stepped out the door, Julio's phone suddenly started blowing up nonstop. People were calling one after another, saying there had just been gunfire at Hilltop. At first, Julio didn't even think it could be connected. In Jacksonville, hearing about another incident wasn't exactly unusual. But as the calls kept coming in, the details started lining up, and that fear started hitting different. Everyone was panicking, asking the exact same question. Was it Julio? Rumors spread fast, but when the description began circulating, a young teen only 16 years old wearing a school uniform with a gray hoodie and a burgundy shirt, Julio's heart instantly dropped. Before anyone even confirmed it, he already knew. And just like that, Blabby was gone. Police later found dozens of shell casings scattered across the scene, making it clear this wasn't some quick act. Whoever pulled up came fully prepared and left heartbreak behind. The shooter emptied the entire magazine and then some. It was senseless. Blabby was only 16 years old. He had just gotten off the school bus, and minutes later he was lying in that parking lot, gone way too soon. Julio later said that loss broke something inside him that he never truly recovered from. When he talked about it, you could hear the pain in his voice. That wasn't just another tragedy. That was family. And what made the whole situation even worse, what really cut deep, was what happened afterward. The person people in the streets were whispering about being involved didn't just disappear or stay quiet.
The court can impose, and that is mandatory life in prison without the eligibility for parole. Do you understand your sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Instead, he jumped online, posting and talking like it was all entertainment, using the situation to grab attention in front of the entire internet. That's when Ksoo's story shifted from tragic to absolutely shocking. Because after Bibby's death, instead of going silent or laying low, Ksoo was active on social media, posting pictures and videos where he appeared to brag about what had happened. He even started releasing songs where Bibby's name was mentioned, taking shots at the entire KTA crew. But the most outrageous part? Reports say he dropped a whole project called Bibby Out, and the cover art allegedly featured images connected to fallen KTA members, as if it were part of the promotion. That move stunned a lot of people, especially Julio Foolio, someone who had already seen plenty in the streets. Even he sat in an interview shaking his head, saying it was beyond reckless. The interviewer didn't hold back either. He called the entire situation senseless. Julio agreed, but he also admitted that's just how things go now. People turning real-life tragedy into online moments without thinking twice. And that's the part that really makes you stop and think. Serious charges don't just disappear. There's no expiration date on cases like that. Someone could be living their life decades later and it can still come back around. So why would anyone go online and post things that practically look like a confession, giving detectives something they could easily save and use later? It simply didn't make sense. But that's exactly what ended up happening. In September 2020, Ksoo was arrested in connection with the death of Charles Lil Buck McCormick Jr., which had taken place earlier that year. While he was sitting in county jail waiting on that case, the situation got even more serious. In March 2021, prosecutors added another charge tied to Bibby's death. Every post that had been uploaded online, the Instagram clips, the diss tracks, the captions, the taunts, all of it eventually made its way into court as evidence. What once looked like social media clout suddenly became part of a criminal case. But here's where the story takes an even more unbelievable turn. The Lil Buck case went to trial first, and the person who ended up helping decide Ksoo's fate wasn't a rival from the streets or some enemy seeking revenge. It wasn't even a random witness. It was his own father, Abdul Robinson Sr. That's right, Ksoo's father took the stand and testified against him. Abdul Sr., who had his own past connected to the streets and had also been charged with helping people escape after the Lil Buck incident, reportedly made a deal with prosecutors to reduce his own sentence. According to reports, he handed over phone records registered under his name and gave investigators a detailed breakdown of what happened. Those inside details helped the state tighten their case and connect the entire timeline. With that testimony, the case against Ksoo became incredibly strong, and there was no real way around it. The trial for the Lil Buck case stretched across 7 tense days, and on July 31, 2025, the jury came back with a unanimous verdict: guilty on a first-degree charge. Footage from inside the courtroom was intense. When the judge looked directly at Ksoo and called out his full name before reading the verdict, the entire room reportedly went silent. In that moment, Ksoo was officially taken into custody by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and his bond was immediately revoked. No more waiting on court dates, no quick appeals. Just like that, it was over. Then came October 1st, 2025, the sentencing day that sealed everything. The judge delivered the final decision: life in prison with absolutely no chance of parole or early release. The court made it clear that under the law, there was no other option: mandatory life, no parole, no shortcuts. The judge gave him 30 days to file an appeal. Take it or leave it. When asked if he understood, Ksoo didn't flinch. He didn't show emotion or react at all. He simply answered calmly, the same way he had throughout the entire trial. Flat tone, no tears, no visible response, almost like he had already come to terms with whatever was coming. His cousin, Leroy ATK Scotty Jr., received the exact same fate: life in prison without parole. Meanwhile, Ksoo's brother, Abdul Robinson Jr., accepted a plea deal for his involvement after the fact and was sentenced to 12 years behind bars. But even with all that unfolding, Ksoo still had another serious case looming over him, the one connected to Bib's death. And what happened next shocked the entire hip-hop world. On February 23, 2026, almost exactly 7 years after Bib lost his life, Ksoo walked into court and changed everything. He pleaded guilty to second-degree charges in the case. No trial, no jury, no drawn-out courtroom battle. He simply stood before the judge and admitted what happened. He confessed to taking the life of a teenager who had just stepped off his school bus that day. A kid who had even been warned to stay inside because the streets felt tense that afternoon. That detail made the tragedy hit even harder. Now, Ksoo sits inside a Florida State Correctional Facility serving life without parole, plus an additional 10 years on top of that. Realistically, there's no path for him to ever walk free again. His story, once filled with internet fame and street reputation, ended up becoming a lifetime behind concrete walls. But what makes this whole situation even more complicated and painful is the betrayal that ultimately sealed his fate. When people talk about what truly brought Ksoo down, they don't just point to the social media posts or the lyrics in his songs. They point to his father, Abdul Robinson Sr., the man who ended up turning against his own son and becoming the key witness in the case. After Ksoo's father took the stand, the streets of Jacksonville couldn't stop talking about it. People were divided. Some argued Abdul Sr. did what anyone might do when facing serious prison time, while others labeled it the ultimate act of betrayal. The idea of a father testifying against his own son shook the entire rap community. It wasn't just about loyalty anymore. It became about survival, fear, and the price people pay once street life collides with the courtroom. What made the situation even more unbelievable was just how deep this family story ran. You had Ksoo, a young rapper who once built his name online chasing fame and clout, now sitting behind bars for life. His brother, his father, his cousins, all pulled into the same storm that began years earlier within Jacksonville's rap scene. What started as neighborhood tension between ATK and KTA eventually exploded into one of the most widely discussed street feuds in hip-hop history. Fans began rewatching old music videos, breaking down lyrics and digging through screenshots, trying to figure out when things first went wrong. Some people argued the music blurred the line between entertainment and reality, that what should have stayed in songs spilled into real life and destroyed everyone involved. Others said the music wasn't the real issue at all. They believed it was always about revenge, pride, and the street politics tied to it. Now, with Ksoo officially serving his sentence and Foolio mourning the loss of Bib, the city of Jacksonville feels different. The same rivalry that once fueled viral tracks and millions of views left behind pain, loss, and shattered families on both sides. And despite all the debates online, one truth stands out clearly. There are no winners in this story. The story of Ksoo isn't just another headline in rap news. It's a raw reminder of how quickly fame, pride, and violence can collide. What began as music eventually turned into chaos. And now all that remains are court records, old videos, and a legacy that will hang over Florida's rap scene for years. The man who raised him, the one who was supposed to guide and protect him, ultimately became the state's key witness. Abdul Robinson Sr., once known in the streets for his reputation and long criminal record, stunned everyone when he agreed to testify against his own son. Prosecutors described the Robinson family as the leadership behind ATK, a crew they said had connections to serious street activity and illegal operations. When Abdul Sr. was charged for helping Ksoo's associates leave town after the Lil Buck incident, he faced a life-changing decision: stand beside his son and risk everything, or cooperate with authorities and save himself. In the end, he chose survival. Robinson Sr. pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact and struck a deal with prosecutors to testify against his sons in exchange for a lighter sentence. He reportedly handed over phone records tied to his name and gave investigators a detailed explanation of how the group operated, who handled what, how people moved, and who they were connected with. His testimony was devastating for Ksoo's defense. It revealed details that physical evidence alone could never fully prove. When your own father takes the witness stand and explains the situation directly to the jury, there's almost no way to recover from that. No attorney could spin it. But the backlash from that decision didn't stop after the trial ended. Inside jail, word spread quickly about what he had done, and other inmates didn't respond kindly. In interviews, Abdul Sr. admitted that life behind bars became extremely difficult after his testimony. He described constant confrontations and said he had to stay alert every single day. Being labeled a snitch in street culture carries heavy consequences. It doesn't just damage your reputation, it can make you a target everywhere you go. Inside prison and outside of it, people start looking at you differently, and that tension can follow you for the rest of your life. Robinson Sr. later explained his decision as something spiritual. He said the evidence against his son was overwhelming and that cooperating was simply the smartest move. He claimed he never fully understood how deeply Ksoo was involved in street life, insisting that if he had known the full truth earlier, he might have stepped away from everything long before things spiraled this far. When the case finally wrapped up, the court gave him a much lighter outcome. Time already served, 2 years of community control with an ankle monitor, and 3 years of probation. That deal allowed him to avoid what could have been a 20-year sentence. But Ksoo wasn't accepting any of that. Forgiveness wasn't even close to his mind. The anger he carried ran deep, deeper than most people could imagine. During a jail phone call after pleading guilty in the Bibby case, Ksoo reportedly said, "This is the life I chose." Then he made a shocking statement about how he felt toward his father. It revealed just how much bitterness and pain he was holding inside. Imagine that situation, a man already facing life behind bars, yet instead of focusing on appeals with a future, his mind is filled with anger toward the man who raised him. That isn't just rage, that's heartbreak turning into something darker, something that might never fade. And the fallout didn't stop there. The tension inside the Robinson family spread to nearly everyone connected to them. Relatives, friends, even people across the city started choosing sides, turning one family's tragedy into a community-wide storm that still hasn't settled. Ksoo's brother received 12 years for his role as an accessory. His sister, Kara Robinson, was injured in 2021 during an altercation involving a bail bondsman attempting to serve her over outstanding warrants. Meanwhile, their father now spends his days under house arrest, an ankle monitor strapped on, reportedly planning to leave Florida entirely to escape the pressure and danger still surrounding the family. The Robinsons, once a tight-knit family, were completely torn apart by the same cycle of violence and street politics that fueled the ATK versus KTA conflict. Nobody walked away untouched. Every person connected to it paid a price one way or another. And even with Ksoo locked away for life, the conflict didn't simply disappear. The violence continued, claiming more lives and breaking more families. Then came another devastating moment.
On June 23, 2024, rapper Julio Foolio passed away following an incident in Tampa, Florida. He was only 26 years old. This was the same man who mourned Bibby harder than almost anyone. He poured that pain straight into emotional songs like Bibby's Story, and even wore a diamond chain engraved with his late friend's name. Foolio turned grief into music. But in the end, the same streets that took Bibby eventually came back around for him too. It's a brutal reality. The streets rarely hand out happy endings. You don't really retire from that life peacefully. You either end up behind bars or gone way too soon. Now here's where the story takes another strange turn. Rumors started spreading online about what happened to Ksoo after he pleaded guilty in Bibby's case. Some people claimed something serious happened to him inside jail. But after looking through reports, court records, and social media posts, there's simply no solid evidence backing those claims. It's one of those stories that keeps floating around the internet, but nothing official confirms it. There's been zero credible proof that Ksoo was attacked, harmed, or targeted behind bars after his guilty plea. As it stands right now, those rumors appear to be completely false. The only person who actually faced serious issues in jail was his father, Abdul Robinson Sr., and those incidents happened after his testimony in 2025, long before Ksoo's court plea in 2026. That detail matters because once the internet grabs onto a headline, the story can spiral out of control, especially in hip-hop media. Online, rumors travel faster than facts. One vague post or clickbait title can explode overnight, and suddenly everyone's repeating it without checking the source. When people say someone got hurt behind bars, the internet instantly wants proof, but in this case, there simply isn't any. And honestly, Ksoo's story is already heavy enough without people adding extra rumors to it. The truth is already brutal. He was involved in the death of a 16-year-old kid, then allegedly went online bragging about it, which brought national attention. Later, he received a life sentence in another case where his father's testimony played a major role. And 7 years later, he admitted responsibility in Bibby's case. Now he's serving life without parole, plus another 10 years added on top. His rap career is finished, his freedom is gone, and his family has completely fallen apart. While his legal team has filed an appeal for the Lil Buck conviction, the guilty plea in Bibby's case is final. There's no undoing it, no takebacks, no last-minute courtroom moves left. When you zoom out and look at the entire story, what you're really seeing isn't just one man's downfall. It's the collapse of an entire generation of young men from Duval County. Lives lost, futures destroyed, families torn apart, all tied to a feud that started in the streets and ended in tragedy for nearly everyone involved. Bibby lost his life at just 16. Foolio was gone at 26. Ksoo was locked away for life at 27. Lil Buck didn't make it past 23. ATK Scotty is serving life right alongside his cousin, while Ksoo's brother is sitting on a 12-year sentence. Their father is now stuck on house arrest, trying to stay out of sight, and reportedly planning to leave Florida altogether just to escape the storm that followed the family. Every person connected to this story ended up either behind bars, in the ground, or living with a life that will never be the same again. And maybe the hardest part to accept, the part that truly hits you, is what Julio once said about Bibby. You could hear the heartbreak in his voice when he talked about warning his little brother to stay inside that day, and then watching him walk right out the door anyway. That pain never left him. Foolio carried that moment for the rest of his short life, replaying it again and again in his mind. It's tragic, but it also shows just how deep this cycle runs. Violence, revenge, pride, it just keeps spinning. One by one, it kept pulling people into it, leaving destruction behind every time.
What's left now are prison sentences, graves, and families torn apart by decisions that can never be undone. When you step back and look at the entire timeline, from Bibby's death to Ksoo's sentencing, it's hard not to feel the weight of what really happened here. This wasn't just a rap beef or a series of street clashes. It became a tragedy that swallowed an entire generation of young men chasing fame, respect, and survival in a city filled with tension. Jacksonville eventually became a symbol of what happens when music and street politics collide. What started as songs and rivalries grew into something nobody could stop. Tracks that were supposed to show talent and competition ended up fueling anger instead. Social media only made it worse, turning real pain into entertainment and real loss into trending topics. Now, Ksoo sits in a Florida prison with no way out, his father's testimony tied to his name forever. Foolio's gone, Bibby is gone, Lil Buck is gone, and the people still alive are left carrying the consequences. The music stopped, the lights faded, and all that remains is a cautionary tale everyone should pay attention to. Because this story isn't just about one rapper or one city. It's about how fast life can flip when ego, revenge, and the internet collide. It's a reflection of what happens when nobody steps back to break the cycle before it's too late. Maybe one day, new artists coming out of Duval will look back at all this and choose a different path, turning pain into purpose instead of another headline. But until then, the legacy of Ksoo, Bibby, and Foolio stands as a dark reminder that in the streets, the cost of clout can be everything. Your freedom, your family, or your life. Ksoo's story shines a harsh light on the reality of Jacksonville's drill rap scene, a world where music videos and social media posts don't just show the rivalry, they fuel it until everything around them burns. For every viral diss track and every reckless clip online, there's a mother somewhere in Jacksonville grieving a son who will never come home again. Ksoo chose the life he lived, and he even admitted that himself from behind bars. Now he has to spend the rest of his life sitting with that decision, locked away without parole, knowing that even his own family played a role in how everything ended. That's not just punishment, that's a heartbreaking ending you'd struggle to believe if it were written into a movie. But this isn't fiction, it's real, documented, and permanently recorded in court files. The lives that were lost, Bibby, Foolio, and Lil Buck, are never coming back. Each name represents another young man pulled into a war that started with music but ended in tragedy. And Ksoo now lives with the weight of knowing that his own actions helped take two of them away. What makes it even more haunting is that the same internet he once used to flex and chase attention ended up helping build the case against him. The same platforms that gave him a voice created the digital trail that eventually locked him away for good. The story of Ksoo isn't entertainment, it's a warning. A real-time example of what happens when fame, pride, and street life collide, leaving behind nothing but pain, prison sentences, and broken families. If you learned something new from this story or want to see more deep-dive breakdowns like this one, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video.